mist swallowed the street until a 350-pound force shattered the silence. Lara saw two massive shadows charging from the gloom, their heavy breaths sounding like an approaching storm. The transition to this unfamiliar neighborhood had been an abrupt shift, a forced change sparked by her mother's demanding new executive position that required long hours, leaving Lara to wander the silent suburban labyrinths alone each evening just to clear her mind. During one of these routine sunset walks, the air suddenly grew heavy with a strange metallic scent, and before she could even turn the corner of the next block, two gargantuan silhouettes erupted from the backyard of a darkened house. They weren't just dogs, they were two mountainous titans, a 185-pound male and a 165-pound female, moving with a terrifying momentum that seemed to vibrate the very pavement. As they lunged toward the iron fence, their massive paws thundering against the earth, Lara let out a scream that felt like it was tearing her throat apart, convinced that these shadowy monsters were the last thing she would ever see. However, as the owner emerged from the darkness, screaming and jerking a heavy iron chain that bound them together, Lara saw a detail that transformed her terror into a cold ache. These weren't starving strays, they were high-volume breeding machines whose massive bodies told a tragic story of industrial-scale exploitation. Baron and Zelda, as she would later name them, weren't thin, but their frames were distorted from years of forced labor. Zelda's underside bore the heartbreaking, heavy sagging of a mother who had been forced to produce litter after litter without a single season of rest, her chest reaching toward the dirt in a way that signaled total physical exhaustion. They were chained together by a short, rusted link that forced them to move as a single 350-pound unit of shared misery, their skin calloused and hairless in patches where the heavy metal had rubbed them raw. If you're watching this and haven't subscribed yet, I have to say I'm a little heartbroken. Stories like this need your support. Hit that subscribe button right now. You won't regret it. Now, back to what happened next. Lara realized the aggression she witnessed was merely a desperate plea for help. She began to spend her nights watching from a distance, documenting the man's cruelty as he treated these majestic creatures like malfunctioning equipment in a factory. The clock on the wall seemed to tick with the weight of a heavy hammer when Lara finally picked up the phone at exactly 3 a.m., her voice trembling but forged in absolute certainty as she described the hidden chamber of horrors happening in the darkness next door. The silence of the pre-dawn hour was soon shattered by the rhythmic, piercing strobes of red and blue as police cruisers descended upon the breeding yard with a force that matched the gravity of the situation. Officers were visibly shaken when they breached the gate, finding the 350-pound duo huddled in a corner of filth, their massive frames vibrating with a terror so profound it seemed to hum through the chilly night air. The owner was dragged out in handcuffs, his pathetic excuses falling on deaf ears, while the heavy bolt cutters finally snapped the chains that had bound Baron and Zelda to their nightmare for so many years. The rescue was a chaotic blur of flashing lights and the soft whispers of veterinarians who were stunned by the physical toll the endless breeding cycle had taken on Zelda's body. However, the victory felt hollow when Lara learned they were being transported to a high-kill municipal shelter, a place where their sheer size and breed made them almost impossible to place in a normal home. For weeks, Lara became a permanent fixture at the shelter, standing outside their concrete run and watching as Baron sat with a quiet, broken dignity that no chain could ever take away. He didn't bark. He simply stared at the wall with deep, soulful eyes that had seen too much darkness. The shelter staff were blunt, warning her that a combined 350 pounds of traumatized muscle was a liability that most families would run from in terror. They pointed to the deformities caused by the breeding, Zelda's sagging, exhausted chest, and Baron's scarred joints, as reasons why nobody wants a broken giant from a place like this. But every time Zelda heard the soft vibration of Lara's voice, her heavy tail would give a single, hesitant and hopeful thump against the cold floor, a sound that echoed like a heartbeat in the oppressive silence of the kennel. Lara spent hours pleading with her grandmother and grandfather until the air in her own home shifted. The day the front door swung open to welcome Baron and Zelda was a day that rewrote the laws of physics and emotion in Lara's household forever. Her grandmother, who was expecting to tame pets, was nearly sent flying backward when 185 pounds of Baron exploded into the hallway like a joyous furry cannonball. Before she could even set down her tray of tea, she was pinned against the wall by a massive head and a tongue that acted like a giant wet washcloth across her entire face. "Good heavens, help me! I'm being washed away by a slobber tsunami," she shrieked, her laughter echoing through the house as she disappeared under the sheer enthusiasm of Baron's 185-pound greeting. Zelda followed close behind, her 165-pound body wiggling with such intensity that her tail sounded like a rhythmic whip hitting the furniture, her once exhausted eyes now sparkling with a frantic joy. The house was instantly transformed into a 350-pound playground of chaotic, unconditional love. Dinner time has become a tactical operation of the highest order. The two titans become silent gargoyles, their massive heads resting on laps with a gravitational pull that makes it impossible for anyone to ignore them. They patrol the kitchen like a security detail, their noses twitching at every scent, investigating the cabinets as if they are searching for a hidden treasure map. Baron's relationship with the swimming pool has become the neighborhood's primary source of daily entertainment. He will stand at the water's edge for an eternity, debating the depths, but once he finally leaps, the resulting splash rivals a small tsunami, clearing the deck and drenching anyone within a 10-foot radius. He refuses to leave the water until the moon is high, paddling around with a look of pure serenity. They have claimed every square inch of the sofas, their rhythmic, thunderous snoring sounding like a low-frequency lullaby that keeps the entire family grounded. They are no longer the breeding machines of the street. They are the 350-pound heartbeat of a home. What would you name these two massive giants? Drop your ideas in the comments.